Okay, our next session features a company transforming how supply chain costs are managed. Fixefy? Fixefy, thank you. Sorry about that. I should have checked with you beforehand. Fixefy is an AI-powered platform that audits supply chain invoices in real time. They help companies find hidden savings and prevent overpayments. Their system pulls data from any source and uses AI to verify, reconcile, and correct issues instantly. Fixefy gives full transparency, stronger financial control, and faster decision-making. They are helping global enterprises stay ahead in a complex and costly supply chain world. So today's workshop looks at Fixefy's work with BASF. So please welcome Lucia Alarcón, Alarcón, and Yaniv Butel from Fixefy.
I'll start with a clicker. Thank you for that intro. It's working, perfect. I'll put it here. So you already read and everything to do about Fixefy. Any questions? BASF, you know, it's going to be a very short session. But first of all, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. Not taking for granted. We're all busy, have our work, and then we're in Summit. But in today's session, I really want to take you from the classical freight audit to how we transfer it to intelligent cost audits or cost control, okay? You're going to hear a lot about the technology, buzzwords like AI that you're probably sick and tired, apologize for my language, about AI, but try to teach you or giving you a lesson that how BASF and us partner together to really, not for the sake of speaking about the technology, but really take that big number one, right? Number one in the world in chemical, the complex logistic into something smarter, simpler, that would help them make some decisions, okay? But before I hand it off to Lucia, and she'll introduce herself and BASF, I want to take you through some things about us. So it's Fixefy, nothing else, it's Fixefy. And then what we've built, it's a platform that helps supply chain organization manage and stay in control over the expenditure on the logistics, okay? So if you are a manufacturing company, which I'm sure most of you, if not all of you here, relying on a third-party logistic vendor to actually do the shipment for you, you need a platform like Fixefy. And I'm saying like because there are others doing things differently, but you need a platform like that. Now, what we've built, and I'll explain to you why that story is also important in a second, but what we've built is like with the technology, I'm going to say it again, AI, we trained behind the AI a lot of LLM models, like long language model, to be a supply chain expert, to be a supply chain professional. So once we throw the data, it's not going to be foreign to them. It's going to be a supply chain with the right context, with the right things that knows then specifically for you. We develop a pipeline that you are able to ingest and collect all the data from structured data. And structured data, I mean systems, okay, that has structured or databases, whether that's your ERP, whether that's your TMS, WMS, database dump, BI system, and so on, as well as the unstructured data that a lot of the organization that I'm speaking with, they're kind of like ignoring. What do I mean by unstructured data? Unstructured data for me, as an example, these are all the emails, communication, text messages, the images that you are getting, a scanned bill of lading or a proof of delivery. How are we taking this and not just like creating, using OCR, a digital copy of it, but how are we able to read this and take all the data that we have to really start connecting the dots? Once we do that, then we can start taking some actions on the data. And our philosophy for Fixefy is that the technology should do the heavy lifting, should do the breakdown and break all those silos and connect the dots on the data that would allow you as manager, allow your team to make some more strategic decisions. So I said I'm not going to speak about technology for the sake of being technology, but I think few things that you're hearing, some of you are more tech savvy, some of you are more operational or business oriented, but I think it's important for me to just, so we level set. So AI, that was the first generation, right? We all loved it, the ChatGPT, the Gemini of the world. where we actually said, OK, I'm going to have a prompt, and the computer will give me an answer. Then we moved into generative AI, right? That it's not just like giving me an answer. It's kind of like my imaginary friend to say, hey, here's the answer, but here are more other things that you can do with it. Now, the brand or the buzzword is agentic AI. So taking everything that the AI and the Gen AI, but have an agent that's going to work for me and make some decision and take some actions. And for Fixefy, I took some few examples of where we're using the agents. So we're using the agent for the onboarding, for the implementation. We don't ask you to come and fix the data, normalize it, map it, and so on. We're using agent that actually you throw the data on them. They have, remember, the context of your supply chain, apologize, and start collecting the dots. Then we're using for ingestion to throw the data, map it, normalize it, and then augment it to your logic, OK? That's another agent. Then the two main ones are the ones that actually doing the audit, OK? So you got an invoice. The supplier sends you an invoice with a bunch of supporting documents. Some of them are images, some of them are handwriting. Your logistics operation may be shared through the shipment process or a life cycle. They shared email and text messages that, by the way, Gartners are saying more than 65% of what's happening in supply chain operation are over email, text messages, and phone conversation. You need to take that into account when you wanted to take like the full story and understand what is my true landed cost, not what I have in my contract or my price list. It's like, what do I actually need to pay for it? Without knowing this, your forecast or your planning is probably not going to be that accurate. Now, we don't stop there to do the invoice validation and the reconciliation. We actually, what we do is that we're using another agent that can communicate like a chatbot, okay, that can communicate with the supplier to say, hey, this is the invoice, that's the shipment. These are the things that we find not right or missing evidence or wrongly calculated until we get the response back in terms of the reconciliation and the dispute resolution. Now, these are the basic. Think about what the knowledge that we are gaining by doing this, okay? Now, why this story that you're going to hear about from Lucia in a second is matter, in my opinion, is that, number one, the reality, and some of you here from operation, logistics, you live in a very complex world. Because you plan something, you wake up in the morning, and things completely different. Whether they're under your control or under your supplier, or maybe geopolitical things that you have no control over it, and you now need to execute it. Now, if that's not enough, your data is fragmented between multiple systems. Some of them on ERP, some of them in multiple instances of the ERP, right? Some of them on the CRM, on the TMS, on file system. And then your supplier bombarding you with a lot of other data that they send to you. So data complexity and with logistic and supply chain is embedded. Then the system that you have for now for billing and for the account payable, they simply not, they can't handle the entire story or to build the entire story to actually calculate how much do I need to pay, okay? So either you put a threshold and say, okay, I'm doing it, or rely on something else. Now, the business, as I mentioned, it's also dynamic. You are growing. There are geopolitical things. There are regulations that you need to process that are also going to affect the way that you operate. And what you want to gain is control, visibility, and clarity based on the true data that I have from all sources, right? And without that, it's going to lead to a wild overcharge and zero governance, okay? Now, that's Fixefy. I really want you to hear the BASF story, so I'll hand it up to Lucia, and then I'll try and squeeze in some comments in between and interrupt her, but other than that, I'll be quiet, I promise, Lucia.
Okay.
And I'll move to the side.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lucia Alarcón. I'm the Transportation and 3PL Manager for BASF, for the Dispersions and Resins organization specifically. I was going to start with BASF is the largest chemical, but then I saw Huntsman here and Dow, so I'll share the market with one of the leading chemical companies, okay?
I should have known that.
Yeah. Okay. We operate in 6 divisions. So we do chemicals, materials, performance, nutrition and care, agriculture, you name it. If you want more information about BASF, my colleague Fernando is going to be speaking later, so he can give you more. BASF is a turning point, I think, as anyone here have heard in some other sessions. We think the chemical industry is going to remain attractive and is essential, right? But the playing field is what is changing, so we have to change as well. Right now, the pressure for operating costs is higher than ever, so that's kind of our main focus. We need to either maintain or reduce fixed costs. So, like I said, we have a very complex logistics setup. We have hundreds of production sites. We operate in different countries. We have multiple shipments. So with that comes the complexity of managing different vendors. So we have multiple carrier vendors. We have 3PL, you name it, terminals, warehouses, all of that. So that's my logistics reality. That's how I have to handle every single day. Having that many vendors means that how you receive your invoices are completely different. One have one format, the other one has another format. Some of them bill different than the other one. Some of them calls one thing different from the other, and it's the same thing. So we have to try to make everything more standardized. So that's what we have. We had the complexity. So the challenge is to have that visibility. So don't get me wrong, BASF has a 4PL, has SAP. We're moving to SAP HANA, next generation. We have everything, right? So now it comes down of how much granular information do we handle and how can we leverage that type of clarity in our data. So that's how we started with the freight cost challenge. So we have fragmented data. What means is we have SAP, we have TMF requirements, we have PDF, we have emails, you name it. We have data from every source. So there is a heavy manual effort every time that we have to validate some of this data in order for us to pay the bills. And of course, we don't have that much manpower to do that, right? So we have limited visibility. I said limited because we do have reports here and there, but if we want to get to that level of detail that we need, then we have something more, right? And we found that we have some of missed opportunities when it comes to that. So what we want to achieve is control of our finances, of how much we pay. We want to get more insight, the analytic trends for all the invoices that we pay, and we want the automation. So how we evaluated the market. Honestly, it was coming to this type of conferences and talking to many vendors and kind of explain the challenges that we have. We just didn't want transparency or visibility. We wanted something more. And when I'm talking about something more, I'm not talking just price checking, price matching. Everyone has a contract. Everyone can match the price with whatever they're billing. What I was talking about is to go beyond dealing with chemicals. To give you an example, you deal with control, temperature control. So I wanted to know, why am I paying temperature control in the middle of the summer coming out of Texas, right? But that was something that I already put in my contract with my carriers. However, there is a way for me to stop that during these type of months and then continue, right? But we're talking about thousands of shipments. We're talking about thousands of operations, customers. We are delivering products everywhere from every origin to every destination. So we need that extra help. So why we chose Fixefy? Basically, for me, was flexibility. As many of you might have different operating divisions or business units, however you want to call it, they like to operate different, right? Everyone has their own product. They want to operate different. But for me, invoice validation should be standardized. It doesn't matter the nature of the product. You have a bill, you have to pay it, right? However, if we want to get to that flexibility, then we wanted a partner who can give us that, right? So when we partnered with Fixefy, that's what we found. We found a tool that it was friendly user. That's what I want to call it, because I don't have any IT background. So I'm in this project, but I have my IT group who handles all the background that I don't understand to this day. But I need something that it was friendly user for everyone because I didn't want the learning curve to be that steep or take a lot of time, right? So they adapt really well. And I wanted something where I can see everything. I wanted to see products, orders, shipments, you name it, in one place, contracts. And that's what Fixefy was giving me. And like I said, the partnership mindset. So I like how they take the feedback and they come back with something that it kind of aligns with what we're asking for.
I want to say I'm just feeling that I'm just standing here without saying anything, so I want to interrupt you if you don't mind, yeah?
Sure.
You want to say, no, yeah, I'll give it back.
Yeah.
I'll just give it back. So if you can go back one slide backwards, another one. Yeah. I think that what I like about Fixefy, being part of Fixefy, is that, you know, the freight audit and the industry freight audit and pay been for centuries, right? And why is it different? So now we have technology that can handle more. Yes, it is important. But when we partner with BASF, number one, they were in the middle of, they knew what, as Lucia said, you identify the next. What do we want to achieve? We have all those freight audit, we have all the BI capabilities, we have tools, we have everything. So why have we went to the market? Like, what are we trying to achieve? That we came and we met with Brett, Lucia's boss, and Lucia, and they said, listen, we already identified what we want to achieve, right? We're already in the middle of paid trial with some magic BI tools and AI, and we're in this, so it's not a good time. And we said, okay, so finish that. And then we spoke and we said, okay, so freight audit, it's not just like doing that control, giving you that automation or do that invoice. You need actionable insight, right? Everyone can develop today with an AI a tool, right? But how I'm leveraging this, and that's where if you go back now to that current slide, is that's where we engage. We said, okay, they already had an exercise, so it's not an effort for them to take the same RFI, RFX, whatever that would be, the exercise, and said, you know what, Yaniv, if you really want to try, here is your data, okay? Now, but it was much harder for me because they already knew where the weak points or how the previous maybe trial didn't go well. So I said, so we were aligned on the KPI to say, listen, I want to know how it works, and I want you to do this. If I were to give you all this data, which was zero effort because I already collected that, I want you to do it differently. I don't have a time for you to interview my team for weeks, right? I don't have time for you to write documents for me to read and then start consuming my resources that are limited to begin with. So I said, okay, we'll take the challenge, but that's how we work. So remember that agents that I spoke? That's how we work. We're hardly spending few hours collecting the data. Supply chain analyst looked at the data, said, okay, that's just validating, that's how you work, that's the connection between what we see from the data. Once we validate, we throw it into the system, okay? So it's not just like invoice auditing, it's much more, or the reconciliation portion, it's that insight that it can give you, trends, notification, efficiency, optimization opportunity. The data is there. That's why I said what I like most of that was the knowledge and giving you a decision-making support system.
Correct. So yeah, that was more information. So yeah, I did a pilot with another company, and like I said, there's a lot of companies that can do the price matching. That's easy, right? If you have a tool, you can do the price matching, but I was looking for something more. So when we did like a small pilot with Fixefy, that's when we started looking and finding those little cases, examples where we said, okay, there is something here, right? Then we extended the pilot, more volume of data, and that's where we said, okay, we have to move forward with this and kind of include everyone else into this pilot. So since then, we have been doing the implementation. We're going live. We are live pretty much. So now it's where we start having all these results, and then we go and dispute and kind of understand the trends of our data and how can we fix. Many people have asked me, well, instead of doing a post-audit, why don't you fix the problem, like from the root cause, right? well, if I don't have a starting point and if I don't have a baseline and I don't have somewhere where to look, it's really hard for you to kind of fix from the root cause, right? So that's what Fixefy is giving us. So yeah, I think why we chose them, we needed someone with vision, and that was kind of what we said. We needed someone with expertise, so we found that in them. And this is...
Yeah, so that's the idea. Just want to ride on what she said about the journey and connect it to my interruption in a second ago, is that we did that discovery that I mentioned, and then Lucia was part of the petrochemical, the CP division, and they gave us the data, and we proved the same KPI. Like I said, like if I'm giving you a chance, Yaniv, I want to see A, B, C. And then we proved that, and we got to the decision point number one, is like, internally for BASF, right? Are we going to use that tool and implement it for CP alone, and then maybe convince other operational or business line to use it, or are we going to extend that, right? Now you need more directors and more buy-in, and as she said, everyone works differently. Everyone think, or some of them think, I already have a solution, right? And convincing someone that there is no problem, or there is a problem, but someone else is having a solution for that, that's the hardest thing. And it took some time, right, Lucia, to convince all other, back then it was 11, 9 Audits?
Yeah, it was understanding how we're using, because nowadays people will come and ask me, oh, Copilot can do it. And I'm like, Copilot cannot do it. You have to have some sort of integration. But again, if you're not IT savvy, then how can you answer all these questions, right? So that's how we kind of expanded to everyone else, to the operating divisions. When he says CP, basically he means petrochemicals. That's the division that is here in Houston. So we expanded to the other divisions, intermediates, resins, everyone.
So that's obviously, for me and for us, was like, is that a smart decision, by the way? And I'm taking you away from the presentation. You know, we want BASF to be a client first and not just like extend it, now convincing other. It has more risk about scalability. Everyone works differently now. Yeah, the end result might be, yeah, that's good, but we are not. I have one of the discussions, I said, what's the ROI? How much would I save? So I gave him some benchmark. Okay, you can have 5% here, 8% there. But then he said, and I mentioned that it's also going to save some labor. I can't remember if it was Matt or someone who said, that's not going to save. That's going to add more labor. And I said, how can that be? I'm sure that I know what my tool do. Sorry. So he said, like, I'm not doing it today, and tomorrow I'm going to have someone looking into the results. So if you're not doing it today, yes, it's going to add more. But if you look at the broader picture, it's giving you much more than what you just added at maybe half of FTE. And so we went through this. We kicked off, late August this year, and we are due to go live in January with liquid bulk at the beginning, which is a big, big volume. It's like hundreds of thousands of invoices a year.
Yep.
For the entire ODs, right?
Yeah, and we were looking for something that can truly integrate with SAP, because that's our ERP, and something that can integrate with the next generation, because that's where we are transitioning to. We didn't want one standalone tool, because we have many, and a lot of them, so we wanted something that it was fully integrated. So that's why we decided to go this route. We did extended pilot. The ROI for that specific pilot, it was more than 500%, which everyone started saying, how can that be possible? So we did all the explanation, the business case, and everything. And just doing the extended pilot, we found a couple things here and there that we could recoup, because we have a 2-year extended since the invoice with the carrier. So far, it has been positive for every single example that we have found, that we can recoup, we can reveal, we can recover, or we can change the process. That's basically what we want to do. The other thing, and to finish, is carriers don't like accessorial charges. They don't make money of it. They don't make revenue of it. So they want to fix the issue as much as we want to fix the issue. So that was also a main factor for us, so we can kind of partner more with our carriers and, look at common ground.
So we touched base about what's the new visibilities look like. So very, very quickly, because we want to leave some few minutes for you to, number one, to listen to maybe the top 3 takeaways from each one of us. So at the moment, there is a complete spend analysis, okay, not just like the freight with all the accessorials, broken down, as Lucia said, by ODs or business line, by division, by product, by carrier, and you have that full visibility, as you said, on the surcharges, on all of them. Where do I leak, or where do I bleed, or what's, how do I fix those things? Because at the end of the day, the whole idea is to fix it, not just to, when I mentioned freight audit, most of the old school freight audit company are generating revenue from that chaotic. The more chaotic, the more mistakes there would be, they're going to take a bigger portion of the money. We don't believe that's the right way forward, okay? And then, as we said, why do we need to have people doing the reconciliation on dispute and spending time? Even if it's been done somewhere remote with cheap labor, I think technology today can do that, so people can actually concentrate on the more strategic, smart decision. And yes, it's not 100%, because at the end of the day, if the supplier are not going to play with us and just ignore the dispute request, what are you going to do? You have to put some human in the loop to close it, either to do short payment or either to say, hey, we're not going to do business, that's very extreme. But I'll take you to that key points from you.
So what's going next? The flexibility that I was talking about. So now we are concentrating in freight, but we want to eventually get to the 3PLs, meaning logistics partners, warehouses, tank terminals. So we wanted to also have a tool that is not as specific for one mode of transportation or one type of logistics service. We wanted something that it can be integrated with other modes. And then the phase 3 will be global scale, so we can go there. So for us, this is mine, right?
What?
This is mine, right? Yeah. For us is data quality first. So we want to make sure that we have the correct data so we can work as a baseline with that. The partnership that I mentioned over and over, and then amplifying expertise. For me, for my team, is not taking away this from them, is transforming how they work. Right now I have my team doing a very clerical work, looking for things here and there. Now I want them to kind of use the data, use all that and create the trends and fix the issues.
My view on that, just to add, so when I put that first bullet of co-design or even the third one in collaboration, I want to say something very clear. Fixefy is a product. It's not a custom solution. So we're not coming and building a solution or a custom solution for you. Having said that, there are many things that we learn along the way when we share and collaborate ideas, and maybe the rebuild is one example that we can speak afterwards, is that, okay, so there are many things on the knowledge, on the auditing, that you might want to have a different view in the app itself or as a report, that we want to build a mechanism for that. Again, the whole idea is like today, you can type the prompt and the solution would give you the answer and you can feed it up and create any reports that you want. But the collaboration between the business user, not IT, the business user, the one that know how to operate it, with the tools, sometimes very slightly required some things that we were more than willing to develop because it's not unique for BASF. That's something that we can use. That's number one. And number two is what Lucia said, it's AI and people. Yes, can AI replace people completely? No. Can AI help them leverage? And that's that the philosophy that we are, it's let the AI or the technology help you or be an enabler for you to do more things. The copy-paste of things from the SAP to other system, gone. That's a solution. Now, the agentic can even take it one step further, but that's the collaboration between the people and the tool. We have a minute and a half for questions that I'm more than happy to answer. I bet more of the question would come to you, Lucia. Where is your email? What's your telephone number? How can I reach out?
Does this solution address duty clawbacks, things like that as well?
It has the capabilities. But again, it's a data that comes. We know what are the T's and C's. We know what are the SKUs or what are the, sometimes it's custom clearance, right? You want to define that product, it's applicable for that charge, maybe in the authorities. So yes, the definite answer is yes. And if it exists in your T's and C's with you and your supplier, 100% we can do it.
I just spent an hour on the phone this morning on this problem exactly.
Okay,
So.
let's speak afterwards. All right.